The hangar of the Imperial Citadel was a cavern of polished darkness, a monument to power that hummed with restrained energy. In the center of it all, a single human stood beside a functional, unadorned Star Runner, its hatch open like an invitation to freedom. He moved with the methodical calm of a man whose mind was already light years away, checking final seals on a cargo of spare parts and cultural archives. He was simply the engineer. His boots, sturdy and scarred from a dozen different worlds, echoed on the obsidian floor, a sound utterly foreign in this place of silent glides and hushed tones. For 10 standard cycles, he had served the Sovereign, the eternal ruler of the most powerful galactic empire known to 20 species. The engineer had arrived as part of a technical exchange, a mere footnote in a diplomatic treaty. He was to study their quantum spooling techniques and offer insights into Terran material science. He would stay 1 cycle. He stayed 10, not out of loyalty to the crown, but out of a profound personal loyalty to the being who wore it. When he arrived, the empire was a glittering shell, its monumental infrastructure crumbling from within, its systems failing, its people growing discontent beneath a surface of enforced harmony. The Sovereign was a figure of distant, cold perfection, a prisoner of a stagnating court and millennia of unchanging tradition. The engineer saw not a god-king, but a problem in need of a solution. He began in the lower city, fixing the atmospheric processors the Imperial technicians had declared beyond repair. He did not command, he asked. He did not dictate, he demonstrated. He showed a young apprentice how to recalibrate a plasma conduit, and that apprentice showed another. A simple, efficient waste reclamation design he sketched in the dust was adopted and improved upon by the local workers. News traveled upwards, a quiet rumor of a strange, soft-spoken being who could make broken things whole again, dotted reached the Sovereign. Intrigued, the ruler summoned him to the Citadel's core, a place of shimmering light and impossible architecture. The Sovereign was tall, elegant, with skin like brushed platinum and eyes that held the depth of nebulae. The courtiers stared, expecting the human to prostrate himself. The engineer merely bowed his head, then looked directly at the monarch. "Your resonance drives are out of phase by 0.03%, he said. "It's causing harmonic decay in your power grid. I can show your mechanics how to fix it." That was the beginning. The Sovereign, weary of sycophants and terrified advisors, saw something utterly new in the human, honest competence devoid of ambition. The engineer was given a workshop. He fixed the drives. Then he streamlined the Citadel's logistics, not with sweeping decrees, but with clever software and rearranged schedules. He walked the halls, learning the names of servants and guards, listening to their small worries about failing heat lamps and clogged sanitizers. He fixed those too. He became a silent, steady force. The Sovereign began to walk with him, first to inspect engineering projects, then later simply to talk. The human spoke of humanity, not of its wars or politics, but of its stubborn refusal to accept broken things. He spoke of children taking apart engines to understand them, of communities rebuilding after storms, of the constant, iterative crawl of progress. He saw the empire not as a divine edifice, but as a vast, complex machine, and he treated its ailments with the careful hands of a master technician. Over the cycles, the change was profound. The lower cities breathed easier. The lights across the core worlds burned steady and bright. The military, once needed to quell unrest, now found its old barracks converted into schools, teaching the new technical arts the human had introduced. Hope, a forgotten currency, began to circulate again. The Sovereign's rule, once upheld by fear of the void without, was now bolstered by gratitude for the stability within. The court did not understand it. They saw a pet, a useful oddity. The Sovereign saw the architect of a renaissance, and now the architect was leaving. His work was done. The treaty had been fulfilled a dozen times over. The empire was stable, growing, healthy. He missed the sun of his homeworld, the feeling of rain, the unstructured chaos of human life. He had packed his few belongings, submitted his formal departure notice to a stunned minister, and walked to his ship for the last time. He did not hear the approach, but he felt the air change. The subtle music of the citadel shifted, the hum of devices lowering in pitch, the very light seeming to bend. He turned. The sovereign stood 10 paces away, having dismissed all attendants. The regal figure was without escort, without ceremony. The magnificent robes seemed almost too heavy for the being wearing them. The usual mask of serene authority was gone, replaced by a raw, unguarded expression the engineer had seen only once before. During a near-catastrophic core breach they had fixed together. "You are going," the sovereign said. The voice, usually capable of shaking chambers, was quiet just for him. "I am," the engineer replied, his own voice calm. "My ship is ready. The transition protocols are approved. The secondary systems lead is fully trained. She is excellent. You will be in good hands." "I do not care about the secondary systems lead," the sovereign said, the words not harsh, but desperate. A step was taken, closing the distance. "You cannot go. My sovereign, my service is complete. The empire is strong. The empire is yours." The outburst echoed in the vast hangar. The sovereign seemed to shrink, not in stature, but in presence, from a galactic ruler to a single being standing alone in the dark. "You built this. You fixed what was broken. Not the ministers, not the generals, not even me. You, with your quiet words and your clever hands. You showed us how to fix ourselves." The engineer felt a deep pang of sorrow. "I only showed you what was already there. The strength was always yours. The people's ingenuity, their desire to build, it was just buried. I just cleared away the rust. And without you, the rust will return," the sovereign insisted. Another step. Now the being was close enough for the engineer to see the faint, luminous lines of strain around those star-filled eyes. "The court will revert. The old ways will creep back. They listen to you because you ask for nothing. They will never listen to a successor that way. The balance is too new, too fragile. It is not the machines that will fail. It is the idea you planted. Without you here to tend it, it will wither." The engineer looked past the ruler, to his ship, to the open hatch leading to the stars, to home. The pull was a physical ache. "I am an engineer, not a politician, not a symbol. I need to go home." The sovereign did not move to block his path physically. Instead, the ruler did something far more powerful. The imposing posture dissolved. The head, which had never bowed to any living being, dipped slightly. The voice dropped to a whisper, meant for no recording, no courtier. Only for the human. "If you leave," the sovereign said, each word a monumental confession, "the empire falls." The hangar was silent. The weight of those words settled in the space between them. This was not a threat, nor an imperial command. It was a plea. It was the terrified acknowledgement that the towering edifice of galactic power, for all its fleets and worlds, was dependent on the continued presence of one unassuming human. The sovereign was not ordering a subject to stay. A ruler was begging a friend not to abandon them. The engineer stood very still. He thought of the lower city, its lights now steady. He thought of the young apprentices in his workshops, their minds eager and open. He thought of the quiet meals shared with the sovereign, discussing philosophy and fracture mechanics with equal fervor. He thought of the stubborn, resilient people who had learned to hope again. He looked at his hands. They were good hands. They could build. They could fix. They had somehow, without his intending it, held an empire together. He looked at the sovereign, seeing the profound loneliness that had always been there, now naked and undeniable. The ruler had given him the one thing no one else in the galaxy ever could: honest work, true respect, and a friendship that crossed a chasm of biology and culture. To leave now would not be an act of departure. It would be an act of demolition. A slow breath escaped him. He turned his head, his gaze sweeping once more over the sleek lines of his star runner, that beautiful promise of earth and sun and rain. He saw the future in that hatchway, a life of comfortable obscurity, a return to a simpler world. Then he turned back. He looked at the crumbling god-king before him, the empire of broken things now mended but still so fragile, and the network of quiet friendships he had built across 1,000 worlds. His work, he realized with a sudden crystal clarity, was not complete. The most critical system of all the heart of the empire was still in need of steady, careful maintenance. Without a word, he reached out and tapped a control on his wrist comb. The hatch of the Star Runner hissed shut with a final soft thud. The landing lights dimmed, then went dark. He turned fully to face the sovereign. He did not bow. He simply stood there, a man in a worn jacket in a palace of stars. His decision communicated in the silence. The sovereign stared at the closed hatch, then back at the human. The raw fear in those nebula eyes began to recede, replaced by a dawning, awestruck understanding, and a gratitude so deep it needed no words. The engineer offered a small, tired, but genuine smile. He gestured back toward the Citadel's interior, toward the endless work that lay ahead. "Well," he said, his voice steady in the vast dark,